Butch and Bob Show.
World famous Butch and Bob Show here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup, Big Dog Country Radio. And Bob, it's baseball to the bow today.
Yeah, big important game. Wayne County BC game 2, dropped game 1 Tuesday 7-4, so need this win this afternoon. So come on out. Again, they got the Hall of Fame recognition. They're going to throw out the ceremony first pitch at 5:40. So again, game time 6 o'clock. Pregame starts at 5:50 this afternoon. So again, big game day between Wayne and BC.
All right, sounds good. Well, we've got a very important guest in this morning. Bob, who do we have?
We do. Again, we've got Wayne County School Superintendent Toni Williams in studio. Toni, first of all, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Again, we just appreciate people in your position to come in. Like I said, we just try to get the information out to the community. We've got a lot of people out there listening today, so just want to thank you, first of all, for coming in. Again, we don't bite. We'll be nice.
That's good to know.
We'll be nice. So let's start with, how's the job going so far for you? You had the interim tag for quite a while. Now you're the full-time superintendent. How long have you been the full-time superintendent? And just in your perspective, how's the job going for you?
It's going great. I signed my contract January 29th, a 3-year contract, so official on January 29th. It's very, very busy. This is a busy time of year with hiring season, trying to start planning for the next school year. So we've been putting in a lot of hours, but I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Okay, well, I'll give you the hard question first. This is the question people keep asking. You don't have an educational background, so how do you take this position and help educators? How do you know what educators need in education if you don't have the educational background? Because you're basically a financial background person.
Well, I've devoted my entire career to public education, so I do have an educational background.
Okay.
I've never been a teacher,
Right.
but this is also an $80 million business, and we need someone to see the finance, HR side of things. And I have a really good team who does have that experience in the classroom, that building level experience as principals, who help guide all of my decisions. I also try to listen to the teachers, get their feedback, and that helps drive the decisions that we make at the district level. So building relationships, listening to our employees to find out what the needs are, and using my team to make good decisions.
One of the main reasons you've got the job is because you stepped into a financial mess, and we'll get to that in a bit. But first, I just want to start with the big story, of course, is the 3 major projects. You found a construction manager, Pope Construction. Tell us your thoughts on them, and do we have any idea what the projected cost of these 3 projects are combined, individually? Your thoughts on that? Tell us, take us through the process, how we got to the construction manager, the bid, things like that.
Okay, so Pope Construction is out of Statesboro, Georgia. They have been in business for a little over 50 years. They actually built Scriven Elementary. So we had a rubric, a scoring system that we used to look at the experience of those contract companies, their relevant experience, how many schools or ag facilities, et cetera, that they had built, their references, and then one of the final parts was the fee structure. And so Pope was the winner in that proposal, only by a little over a point. It was very close. There were 3 that were right there at the top, and it was a very close score. But so they will oversee the projects for us. They will work with me to work with all the subcontractors. We will bid out for the subcontracting work, and we will come up with a guaranteed maximum price. We expect that to be around $12.5 million for all 3 projects combined. We plan to start May or June of this year and be finished by August of 26.
So the construction manager, how's that work? Because that was a big topic the board had. They wanted somebody that was going to look after their interests.
Right. So the construction manager.
There's a lot of confusion. The construction manager, the construction, so explain all that.
It's just a different process than what we're accustomed to. We typically just do a sealed bid, and then in the past we have paid our architect to be basically the construction manager. The construction management firm, Pope, will have one employee dedicated to our projects who works with me to make sure that we stay within budget and stay on our time schedule. And so we'll work hand in hand to get through these projects and get them done efficiently and at the best cost for our taxpayers.
And all these three projects there at the high school, right? The
They're
Ag
all
Center, the
three-
ROTC building, and the weight room, all at the high school. Is that
Well,
correct?
the Ag Center will be on Joey Williamson down past the track, in between the track and the church.
Okay.
That's where the Ag Center will be.
So the school system owns all that land.
We do.
And they still own all the land across the street.
We
as well,
do
right?
on
That's
the
a
land
lot of
across-
acreage we got many years ago, wasn't it?
is.
Holy moly.
That land was purchased before I started with the school district.
Oh yeah, that was because the new school. We say new school. It's 20-something years old now. The high school right now was completed in 2002,
Right.
and so the land had to be purchased at least 3 years before that.
I started in 2000, and the land had already been purchased at
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
So-
How far past the track is that Ag Center going to be? If you're looking at the track from Joey Williamson, how much distance between the track and the Ag Center will they be?
There'll be some acreage in between. It will be probably a little bit closer to the church than
Okay.
to the track.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's something where people would need to get out, go down the road, and go to.
Yes.
Okay.
There'll
All
be
right.
an entrance closer to the track, but then the building itself, we're going to try to set it back as far back as we can.
Yeah. Okay.
So-
As
Sounds
far as the
good.
projects go, who's all involved in the design of the project? Because I understand the Ag Center, a lot of people in the Ag,
We had
they worked hard. They had a lot of input.
Yes, there was
so
a
the
lot
question,
of input.
a lot of people talk about the weight room. Who had input on that? Was the AD involved? Was the strength and conditioning coach involved? Who was on the committee to look at that design for the weight room?
We didn't necessarily have a committee for that one. We had a committee for ROTC and Ag. The weight facility, Dr. McDaniel, the high school principal, and Justin McDonald, the athletic director, and myself, we went to 2 different school districts and toured their weight facilities. Then we came back and I met with the head football coach and the strength coordinator and got their input. And then Dr. McDaniel, Mr. McDonald, the head football coach, and the strength coach and myself all met and finalized those plans.
How will it be compared to where the weight room is right now?
There will be a corridor coming out of the gym going towards the track.
Okay.
And that's where the new weight room will be.
And in your mind, if you had to describe it, visualize it, what does it look like or will look like?
How much bigger will it be than the
Yeah.
one they have now?
It will be a lot bigger
A lot
than the
bigger.
one that they have. The actual weight room itself is going to be over 6,000 square feet.
Okay. And the one we have now is nowhere near that, is it?
No, it's going to be more than double the size.
Fantastic.
So,
As I mentioned, you stepped into a mess. I want to go back. I still say that was the number one news story of the year 2024 was the day you came to the board to present. They asked you to come look at their finances.
yes.
And the more you spoke, the more I sat there with my mouth wide open, like, is it really as bad? This is bad. I mean, there wasn't anything good about it. It was so bad that they went in executive session, and that was the end of the former superintendent's reign. And then all of a sudden, wheels were put in motion to find you. And so, talk about that day in particular. I mean, all the charts you had, all the problems that was with the state audit, things like that. I mean, you actually stepped in. You found a lot of problems with the school system.
I did. So there had been some audit findings from the Georgia Department of Audits, but I looked into other areas, the CPI report, which reports all of our certified staff to the state so that we can earn more funds for salaries from the state. I looked at those reports. I looked at our federal funds. I looked at the budget, a 5-year history on the budget, just to see if I could identify. One of the questions the board had was, why had the budget increased so much?
Right. That was the question I had. I mean, there's one year the budget went up $7 million, and I asked time and time again, where is the $7 million going? I mean, you look at a budget, you can, what is the line item? Where's the increase? And no one could tell me. So did
Right.
you find out where that $7 million went?
There was a substantial increase in the employer's portion of state health. Of course, that didn't make up for $7 million, but the governor granted a lot of raises during those times too. So 87% of the budget goes to salaries and benefits. So that's where the majority and there were some positions that were added during that time as well. Of course, we had a huge influx of COVID funds, and those funds were used as well.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up because Wayne County got $27 million, school system alone. where's the $27 million? I mean, I've told the story many times. Told me it was on hand sanitizer. I said I could go to Walmart and buy $250 worth of hand sanitizer to fill the room. Then they said you said a lot of it went to computers, which I understand. It was COVID time. Kids were at home. Kids didn't have computers, so they went out and bought all these computers because that was one of your charts that you had.
It was.
And there was a bunch of money. So my question is, what I found out was those kids didn't get to keep the computers. They were told to bring them back. So I keep asking that question, where are they? Are they in a closet somewhere? Are they being used? Did they not?
They're being used in the classroom.
So they are being used.
They are. The first round of funds was the smallest amount that we received, and the good majority of that was spent on technology so that we could have one-on-one access for our students. And what we should stress,
though, too, when they gave that in years. In certain years, they had restrictions on what you could use the money for.
Right.
But then there was a period of time when they gave a pile of money, and it was like, you use it for whatever you want to use it for.
The first
so that's
round,
what I keep asking. What do we have to show for our $27 million?
The first round didn't have as many strings attached.
Right.
And the more funds we received, the more accountability we had with those funds. So the first round was mostly used for technology. We got that one-to-one device for all of our students, and at that time they were able to take those home with them because we were doing a lot of virtual learning, or they were doing a lot of virtual learning. But
which
now they're being used in the classroom.
So they are being used.
Yes, they are. Our students every student in our district has access to a Chromebook.
So how much money would you say is tied into the 27 million?
The technology was probably, the first round was around 80% of the first round of funds was for technology. The second round was only around 11%, but then a good bit of that money was used for the HVAC system at the high school, as well as the third round. The third round was HVAC system, and then there were some retention bonuses given to the employees. The HVAC system took up a good chunk. It was over $8 million. So
was that a good deal? I've heard a lot of complaints because I've been to the board meeting and say they're not working.
We've had some challenges with the HVAC system.
I got to ask you that question. Just like the old track at the high school, they had people come in and try to repair that.
Right.
And it was a botched job from the get-go, but they never went and made those people come back and fix it or pay. Are we doing that with the HVAC system?
They're coming back.
Holding people accountable.
We've had conversations with them yesterday about an issue, and they're coming back. They're coming back to work on it.
All right. Well, as I mentioned, you came in a bad situation, a lot of financial. So, are you been able to correct? I mean, I know it's a long process, but that's a huge task to come in there and try to repair all that damage that's been done in the past. So how's that going?
It's a work in progress. So we are currently finalizing our FY24 audit. So that would cover the period of July 1st, 23 through June 30th of 24. We're finalizing that audit with the Georgia Department of Audits. And our budget process for next year for FY26 is just going to be a completely different look than what even when I was here as CFO. We're just taking a completely different approach, and I think we're going to be more transparent with where the funds are going, and able to educate not only our board but our principals and the public on exactly where the funds are going.
Okay, just joining us in the studios with us is Wayne County School Superintendent Toni Williams. Again, we appreciate you being here. You mentioned you spoke at the State of Education, and you talked about how you have the county's two top concerns: their students and their tax dollars.
Yes.
So tax dollars is something that a lot of people out there are worried about, because they look at that school tax and they keep complaining about how much money they're paying in school taxes. So when you look at this budget and the tax situation, what can you tell the taxpayers out there? Are they going to see some relief? Are they going to see an increase, or how's it going to go?
I haven't had the opportunity yet to meet with our new tax commissioner. That's on my list of to-do. But I do want to take a look at the digest, see where we are with collections. I do know the last time I looked, the senior citizen exemption cost us around 2.5 meals.
Is that what it
Texas.
is, 2.5?
The last
people
time
my
I
age,
looked,
we don't have to pay.
Right.
But if you're 65 and above, that's $2.5 million per year. That's been going on like for the last 25 years.
Right.
You add that that's how much money that we haven't received. That does any other counties around us have senior
There are some
exemption?
districts in the state that have an exemption, but most of them have an income limitation or a home value limitation, and ours is there's no limitations on either. So
About $2.5 million a year we miss out on because people my age, we don't have to pay the school tax.
Right.
Now I do at the radio station. I got to pay it here.
It's
And-
for those that claim homestead exemption.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Superintendent Jay Branch used to tell me how much that hurts our school system. I
does.
mean,
It
it really
does.
puts us behind the 8 ball because that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and when you think about since 2002, I can't remember the exact year that it was implemented. Just think about the revenue that
Right.
that
But
we haven't
unfortunately, that's
received.
one genie that's never going to be put back in the bottle.
No.
'cause that's
You won't be able to do
Right.
that. Once,
No.
once you get a tax break, you can't take
That's
it back.
right.
That's never
That's
coming
right.
back. Also, Anisha, I want to talk about, you talked about in your talk at the Coastal Pines State Education, you talked about how, the key is to get students to show up. But
Yes.
you also mentioned there's a key to get teachers to show up. There's a big
is.
problem with teachers showing up for work, which a couple of years ago, they had a big figure of how much Wayne County School pays on substitute teachers.
Right.
And the figure was just astronomical. I was like, are you kidding? If other jobs people didn't show up, they'd be gone. So how do you address? And then they've had incentives in the past. I was like, well, why do we have to give incentives for teachers to show up for work? Explain what's going on. Why aren't the teachers showing up for work?
It appears to be a post-COVID issue with a lot of school districts where staff attendance is an issue. It's not just a Wayne County issue. We contract out our subs. We do have a hard time finding subs to fill all of the slots every day, but we're going to take a different approach next year with that, and we're going to have a progressive discipline plan for staff members that have excessive absences. We're working on that plan
That's
now.
what it takes. You got to have you got to have something there as an employer. You got to have something there that encourages a person not to miss
Right.
X amount of days, or the fear of losing money or whatever benefits or whatever the case may be will kick in, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I want to show up today."
And we have some really good substitutes that come into our system, but having the regular teacher there on a daily basis is so important for those students. So
Yeah, I hardly ever remember any of my teachers at Wayne County High School from 68 to 72 ever missing. If it was just hardly ever.
it's just a mindset that we're going to have to shift back to the importance of those skills, those soft skills that we talk about with our workforce now. Showing up on time, showing up, working really hard while you're there. But we have some great employees. I don't want to put
Yeah, we
a
got a lot of
negative
great employees. It's
spin
always
on
that
it.
it's always that 10% out there that kind of
Right. But
that-
we do have a student and a staff attendance issue right now that we're addressing.
And another figure that stood out was the non-certified teachers. Why is it so high in Wayne County?
That's not just a Wayne County issue. That's a nationwide issue. There's a teacher shortage. So the Professional Standards Commission has given us some flexibility on teacher certification. Again, we're going to hold people's feet to the fire for that to make sure that they're following through on their plan to get the education that they need in order to become
And
certified.
how long do they have to get the certification? I mean,
Typically,
how does
it's
that work?
3 years.
3 years.
Typically, it's 3 years.
after they graduate and start working,
So they have to have a bachelor's degree.
right?
And then, so we put them on a plan to have either go through what we call the TAP program or to get a master's degree in education.
You talked about the COVID situation kind of changed the mindset of people, and talking to the Congressman Buddy Carter about that, it's happened in the federal jobs. He says there's so many empty buildings around the Washington D.C. area because the people just didn't show back up. They're working remotely.
Right.
And are they really working? I mean, they're at home in their pajamas, or whatever the case may be, or are they really at home?
Right.
And they're working, remotely, and they're trying to get them. They're saying you've got to come back, and these employees are fighting against it because they love staying at home.
Right.
And so the COVID situation did change the mindset of showing to work, showing up on time, and all that. So it's a situation everybody's having to work through.
We just want to get to the point where our employees love to come to work and they want to be there, and the same for the students. We just want to change the environment for everyone, make it a positive environment, and everyone will show up, and the we'll see the difference in the test scores.
And so, speaking of test scores, where are they at now? I know the state recognized some of our schools as the low performance schools. So how are we addressing that?
We did. That was already part of our school improvement plan, so that was based on last year's scores. So we knew that. We didn't know that we were going to be identified, but we knew what the scores were that were going into that calculation. Part of our school improvement plan is to address that, particularly at the middle schools. You know, we've been working really hard at our middle schools to increase student achievement. Also, the new legislation with reading plans at the elementary school level is gonna help us out as well.
We've got Wayne County School Superintendent Toni Williams as our guest this morning here on the world famous Butch and Bob Show.
When you look at the overall budget, there's a perception out there that the front office is top heavy. You know, I hear that all the time.
Right.
There's so many people. You know, there's even a joke out there about the Wayne County School System: if you screw up, you move up. So I'm sure you've heard that. So
if you want to know what's going on, Tony, just go to the local coffee shops here in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll get the real input.
The truth.
I'll
get the
that's right.
truth.
I don't know if it's the truth, but it's just what people think is the truth.
Their version of the truth.
I mean, I see former superintendents around town. You know, they're like, they can't believe how many people are working in that front office compared to when they. I mean, this is years ago, but people like Jerry Jones, Larry Cooper just are amazed how many people in that front office, and they're like, why? You know, it's kind of like watching coaches years ago. That baseball team would have 2 coaches, a varsity and JV coach. Now they got 9, 10 coaches. So I mean, but when you look at the overall budget, you know, do you see a problem with that many? I mean, what do you see?
There are some people housed in our building that actually work in schools. They spend the majority of their day in schools. I think the problem was that we ran out of some room at some of those schools, so they're housed at the district level. But there's obviously more than there was 20 years ago,
right.
But there's a lot more accountability as well. Part of our budget will be to eliminate a couple of positions. I've spoken with the board about that. We're going to try to do that through attrition, but we are looking at making some cuts to slim down the budget.
Try over 50 years ago when I was at Wayne County, there was hardly you had a principal, assistant principal, a secretary up front, maybe a couple of counselors and stuff like that. That was it.
You paid payroll, you paid bills, and that was it.
A little different.
Yeah.
Well, again, since you've taken over, you know, have you been to all the schools? I'm sure that's part of your job is to go to each school, talk to each principal, see what their needs are, things like that. So how is it traveling around, looking at all the schools and looking at the facilities? I want to get to the athletic facilities in a minute because that JC Stadium, I want to get to that. But you know, how's that process gone? You visiting all the schools and talking to the
Yes, I am visiting. I'm actually getting into some of the classrooms and meeting some of the teachers and getting to know some of them. So I don't get to do it as often as I want, but I think that once we get things settled down and I get all of my team in place, then I'll have more time to actually spend more time in the schools rather than in my office in meetings or crunching numbers.
And speaking of facilities, you know, I always hear that, you know, the term there's a 5-year facilities plan. My question is there a 5-year athletic facilities plan? Because JC Stadium was built in 1955, and I want to get on my soapbox about when Jay Brinson had the great plan to go in and build the stadium, and instead they built the 8-lane track. I won't go into all that, but is there a plan to, you know, I mean, that stadium continues to, each day gets older.
It ages, yes.
Well, we did have one school board member come on here and said it should be condemned.
Right.
That's when he was running for election.
Okay.
I remember after the hurricane, I walked up there and I was hoping and praying that the press box blew up. but it still stood. I was hoping because that's my fear. I tell that story on the radio. If a strong wind comes, it's going to. I mean,
well, you got more baling wire. Just put it around and hold it in place.
But your thoughts on that? You know, has you and the board discussed, you know, trying to improve how we're going to improve that facility?
We haven't made it to that conversation. We're required to have a 5-year facility plan in order to get state funding for facilities.
But is there a 5-year athletic facility plan?
There's one in my brain, but we haven't put it on. We haven't put it on paper yet,
I got
and
you.
I haven't had those conversations with the board yet.
Right.
jumping the hurdles right now that we need to get over. And then
You just
and then we'll
started,
get
so you
to
got to
that.
do one hurdle at a time.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But that's Joe and I go to all these different places and see their facilities, and then looking at it, we just shake our head like
We definitely need some
we're like in
improvement
this,
to our athletic
we're like
facilities.
in the Stone Age. What has happened? Why are
I
we
have
so
a
far
plan,
behind?
Bob. I have a
Have a
plan.
plan.
Just give me some time.
Well, I keep telling
Tony
people,
will get it
I
done.
keep telling Rome wasn't built over. I said
That's
I said
right.
you got to give the lady time. She
That's
can't go
right.
over. That's what
There
I
are
told
only
people.
24 hours
I
in the
understand.
day, and I'm using a lot
understand.
of them.
Well, like I said, I told you when you got the job, I was happy you got the job. I
Thank
tell you
you.
all the time, I'm praying for you because you got a very difficult job. Like I said,
Thank
you're dealing with
you.
people's kids and dealing with people's taxpayers' money, so it's a very difficult job. But I think things are going well. The board meetings seem to be going pretty smoothly.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
how's the relationship with the board members going?
It's been great. They've been very, very supportive of all of the decisions and all the changes that I've wanted to make. The board has been very, very supportive.
Well, if we get $27 million again in COVID money, let's build new facilities. Not hand
I don't know that that's
sanitizer.
going to happen. We're going to have
We
to
don't
work
need
on our
hand
E-Splast.
All right.
Tony, again, I appreciate you coming in. Like I said,
Thank you for
as I
having
mentioned,
me.
we want people in your positions. We invite them all the time.
Right.
The invitation's always open. Anytime you need this program to get any information. You said you did want to get some information about the pre-K.
do.
Okay, yeah. Go
Pre-K.
ahead.
Okay.
Yes, pre-K. If you have a child or know someone that has a child that will be age 4 by September the 1st, we need them enrolled in pre-K. Our enrollment numbers are really low this year compared to previous years. We do want to be able to fill up all of those classrooms and get those kids the foundation that they need. Again, age 4 by September 1st, we need them enrolled in our pre-K program. We have an excellent program.
So how do they, if there's a parent
Just
out there,
contact the district office or go to our website to get the information.
do you have a number for the office?
427-1000.
1,000. Okay. So
427-1000. Easy to
So-
remember.
That's right.
So they have to be before September 1st this
Correct.
year. Okay.
Correct.
To get into pre-K
And there'll be
for
some
next year.
documentation required,
Right.
but they can go to our website to find that information as well.
Okay.
Well,
We won't give that website because it's like dot this, that,
It-
dot.
Right.
Just Google it. Wayne County, Georgia. Wayne County, Georgia, because there are a lot of Wayne counties there
There
in the United
are.
States. So Wayne County, Georgia School Board of Education, and they'll take you right to it.
Right. Right.
All right.
Again, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for
And
having
just
me.
remember, you're welcome anytime.
I
Anytime,
appreciate
Tony.
that. I
All right.
appreciate that.
Tony Williams, School Superintendent. Bob, good luck with the ball game today against BC. Howard Boat Warren Field. What's the special event going on before the game?
The Hall of Fame recognition. Again, the guys that have been inducted in the baseball community that contribute to the baseball program, they're going to be on hand throughout the ceremony first pitch. So if
They all going to throw it at one time? Is that catcher going to have to
I-
catch like 5 or 6?
I believe that's the way it's going. I believe you're going to have, that's what I understand.
Okay.
They're all gonna
You'll
throw
find
it.
out when you get there.
I'll find out when I get there.
First pitch is at what time today?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. All right, Bob. Have a good day. Tony, thank you very much once again. All right, the world-famous Butch and Bob Show here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup has been brought to you by Heron Aldridge Insurance, by Murphy Builder Supply, the Service Department at GNS Auto Sales, and by First Southern Bank.